feminist writer from this country, Virginia Woolf, said, "As a woman, I have no country. As a woman, I want no country. As a woman, my country is the whole world." What Virginia Woolf meant was that we need to break down the barriers between countries. We need to rid the world of nationalism. We need to stop wars between countries that arise because of nationalistic views, because of views that one country is better than another, that one country has a right to invade another, that one country has a right to own, to colonise, to invade another country. When we stand here today, or sit here today as we do, we know that all over the world there is war, there is pestilence, there is climate change that is leading to death and destruction and damage. We know too that those who are most impacted by it are the women. Let me give you an example. When the tsunami happens and countries in the Pacific region are damaged by it, generally the men are out in the fields, the children are on the beach playing, and the women are on the beach with the children, caring for the children and perhaps scrubbing their clothes or doing other domestic tasks that they do in that vicinity. And when the tsunami comes, these women are confronted with a choice. They need to decide which child they will save. Because when the wave comes and when the children are at risk, a woman has one arm that she can hang on to the tree to save herself and one child. If she lets go of the tree in order to save two children, she won't save them or herself. That's why grandmothers are vital too, because the grandmother can hang on to the tree with one arm and save the child with the other. So we need to remember that women are those who are most impacted by this damage. And yet, it is women's voices that are not heard, just as Virginia Woolf's voice was not heard when she was saying, "As a woman, I have no country. As a woman, I want no country. As a woman, my country is the whole world." Now, generally, in settings like this, when one refers to those who are subject to war, those who have been killed, those who, like the women in Iran, are struggling against a despotic regime, are suffering torture, are suffering death, when generally in a setting like this we reflect on those circumstances, we ask for a minute's silence. I don't ask for a minute's silence. I ask for a minute's speech. I ask for an hour's speech. I ask for a day's speech so that the voices of the women can be heard. No more silence. No more silencing women. It is the voices of women who need to be heard, just as we know that in the situation in and for Iran, there is a recognition that women should take leadership roles, that women must take leadership roles, and that when freedom and justice come to Iran, it will be a freedom and a justice that is a consequence of the leadership of women. But I want to refer to not only to the women in Iran, but to the women out of Iran, to the women who have been exiled from Iran, to the women who do want to be in their country of Iran, recognising that they should be there in terms of freedom and justice, no tyranny, no war. These women who have been driven from their country, from Iran, may have been driven out alone, in company, with a husband, with a friend, with a lover. Women saying goodbyes too quickly to those whom they must leave behind. The distances widen for them. The miles fly by, a plane rises above the clouds. Look, the ocean is a mere speck on the horizon. Their land, their country, is a mere speck on the horizon. The sun comes nearer. The weather changes from searing heat to lip-chilling cold. The winds roll in from the west and the sun sets into the ocean. For the first time, the woman looks up and sees the night sky in terms of freedom. But it should not be a freedom that she must experience outside her land of Iran. It should not be a freedom where she is denied the right to be free in her own land, in her own country. What we know and what we see when we see the women of Iran standing up for their rights, refusing to be trampled on, refusing to obey the mullahs, we see the strength, the power, the fortitude of women, a strength, a power and a fortitude that is too often unrecognised, too often ignored, too often downplayed, too often denied. I see the strength of the women of Iran, and I see too, of course, the strength of the women of the Ukraine. I see the strength of the women who are struggling against climate change and who are faced with that unconscionable choice of having to determine which child will I save. We need a Bill of Rights for the women of Iran, just as we need a Bill of Rights for the women of this country, just as we need a Bill of Rights for the women of every single country in the world, every woman globally. And I say, and I end on this note, the famed feminist, a United States one this time, Susan B. Anthony, said, "Failure is impossible." I say to you today, I say to you this evening, I say to you in this joint festive that we celebrate today, that failure is impossible. The women of Iran working together with the men of Iran and working with our global support for their strength, for their fortitude, for their power, I say, failure is impossible. We will see a free and just Iran. Thank you.